Learning. It's what sets us apart from other species. Whether we realise it or not, it is what drives every decision we make. It is the sole building block upon which all human endeavour is founded. Every proud moment, it all started with our innate desire to learn. Learning is, in no uncertain terms, fundamental to our existence. Often this is muddied by our tendency to place certain areas of life higher on the societal pedestal than others. But do not mistake the forces at play. Knowledge is, and always has been, the bedrock of our lives. And yet, in recent years, this act of acquiring knowledge has been infected with apprehension and disdain. Rather than revelling in our unique ability to grasp the intricacies of the universe at their heart, we have marred them with competition and the hunt for prestige. The learning process, once so evidently innate within us, has become institutionalised, not just for those of us dedicating our lives to its pursuits, but for everyone who dares enter into our fear-ridden society. Institutionalisation is, much like any other benign concept, fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with formalising and distributing en masse the vast amounts of knowledge our fellow sapiens have attained, and believe me, it is vast. But there comes a time when we have to stop and take a step back, and consider what we are really doing. If our current situation, with its classrooms and whiteboards, its teachers and reluctant students, if that worked for everyone, this sentence would lose its meaning. That is, the sense of reluctance in our students would become the rarity rather than the norm. It must be said that most of the time this system is our best, if not our most beneficial, solution. There are, of course, hundreds of criteria that must be met, and hundreds more powerful voices to which we must adhere. Teachers are, without exception, the most vital players in moulding and sharpening. Teachers are, without exception, the most vital players in the moulding and sharpening of the younger generations. We just need to broaden the definition slightly. People often say that we are our own best teachers, and, while the 10-year-old art student may struggle to understand the deeper concepts of differential calculus without at least a little help from outside, I would argue that this is generally true. You see, it's not the information itself that's most important to progress, both on the individual and societal level. It's minds themselves. More specifically, it's the knowledge of how minds go about minding, and I suggest you start with your own. To really stand a chance of competing with those at the top of your chosen field, you must learn how to learn.
Bit shaky. Okay, so thank you for indulging me on my little rant there. I made some pretty big claims, I know, so hopefully I'll be able to live up to some of those. What I really want to do here is give a sort of comprehensive guide of how I've learned to study and how I've learned, like I said, to learn, because that really is what's fundamental to all studying, all university, all, if in this country we do GCSEs and A-levels. Everything we do that's academic and everything else, but I can come on to that, is really founded on this. We can't really progress in those areas without the knowledge of our brains and without knowing how we work best, really. So I've picked up quite a lot of things throughout my degree and throughout my studying, which I've done way too much of. That's good, right? Because now I have a lot of knowledge to share, hopefully, that might help some people. So this is going to be sort of a little mini explosion of all my ideas and all the things and all of the thoughts I've had on studying and learning. When you're studying, you think of any excuse to not be doing what you're meant to be doing. So I've thought quite a lot about what I'm best at and what other people might benefit from. Of course, this is all individual, and as everybody says, and you've probably heard a million times, what somebody else says might not fit how you learn. But that's the point. It's those sort of things that need to be expanded more and need to be understood properly before we can really implement them into what we're doing on a day-to-day studying basis. Now, I don't want this to be just for the people that are, oh, I really need to study, oh, I really want to get this A grade or whatever. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to show people that, one, acquiring knowledge and learning is everywhere and it's in everything we do, whether you like school, whether you hate maths, whether you hate arts, whether you're academic, anything. You're always learning, and I want to show you how best to do that. If the best way to do that is to scrape through a math GCSE and then go on to do what you really want to do, that's great. That's exactly what I want you to do. If that's oh, I'm going to go to university and study physics like I did, that's also great. For me, I did that and now I don't know why I did it. That's what I want people to avoid. I want to help people understand what they're doing, what they enjoy doing, and not do it because all maths is hard and if I get good at that, then people will respect me and think I'm clever. That's one, not true, trust me, and two, completely the wrong way to go about it. One thing I want to make clear is that I'm not that type of person that's like, oh yay, learning, let's go and have fun learning. Learning isn't always fun, and it doesn't have to be, it shouldn't be, but neither is anything else you want to do. And if learning is something you want to dedicate time to, which of course I think it should be, then these are the things I think will make it more enjoyable and easier. The two objectives for anybody learning anything. Okay, so number one, don't rush into things. For the first 2 years probably of university, I would start a new course and instantly go, okay, which textbooks do I need? Which notes do I need? What problems do I need to go over? What specific equations do I need to memorise? And of course that's all good, that's all how you learn a subject, but that comes later. First you need to take a broader perspective. You need to think, how does this relate to what I've learned before? And this is exactly the sort of thing I would hate. I'd hate people saying, oh, we need to take time, we need to really get to grips with the broader sense of what's going on. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to just get straight into the maths, learn the equations, do some problems, and hopefully pass the tests, pass the exam, done with. But if you want to learn something rather than memorise, because they're two very different things, this is what you need to do. Get all your old notebooks or look up all the old courses you've done in the past and go over them and see where they might start leading into what you're doing now. So let's take differentiation at A level, for example. That's all to do with gradients of graphs and finding slopes and stationary points, right? Where the gradient is 0. It's all related, but more importantly, it comes from y equals mx plus c, really. It comes from the gradient of a line. If we take it back to its simplest form, we have a straight line, we have the change in y and the change in x. The ratio of those is the gradient. Now all we're doing is generalising that to a point, and at that point we have an infinitesimal tiny d change in y, tiny change in x, then it's the same ratio that we're focusing on. So that's where it connects to differentiation, GCSE to A level in a sense. And that's what you need to do for every course you take, whether it's uni, whether it's GCSE, whether it's A level. Think back to what you've done in the past and how you can lead, however slowly, however many equations it takes to go from one level to the next. That will really make you understand where it comes from. And that's everything. Number 2 is don't focus on what other people are doing. Probably the hardest thing I've ever had to try and do, and I'm still working on it, I'm still not great at it, but it really does not matter where other people are in the learning process or if somebody's ahead of you or not. If somebody's ahead of you, that probably means that they've just focused on that one area, not good at all the other things that you might be good at. If you start comparing, it's just a downward spiral. You'll start thinking, oh, I'll never be as good as him because he has 9 A stars and I'm really struggling to get 1 in chemistry. And maybe he's better than you, but that's not what this is about. I'm just going to interrupt there, but when it really comes down to it, there's 2 main reasons for that feeling of, oh, I'm not like them and I want to be like them. Either you love your subject, which is great, and you're thinking that somebody else has got better test results, therefore they're going to do better further down the line, which is what you want to do and you want to be at the top of your field. Great, we need people at the top of their field, but the way to do that isn't by comparing yourself to others. The way to do that is to enjoy what you're doing, and the only way to enjoy what you're doing is to be comfortable with the pace that you're going. Or maybe you're just trying to pass these tests and you're just trying to get through it because maybe you don't like your subject as much, or maybe you just need these test results to move on to something you really love to do. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with that at all. If you're in this position, you might still feel like, oh, I need these test results, somebody else is getting better test results, therefore I should be more like them. Now, it's true that a lot of the time, test results are one of the main factors in deciding where you go on to next. But that's not the main skill you should be focusing on. The main skill you should be focusing on is developing those skills that you will need further down the line that are much more vital than just passing some tests. And that's the ability to study effectively, in a lot of cases, long periods of time, without getting completely overwhelmed and bored and procrastinating the whole time. That's what really matters in the broader picture when you're looking further in the future. So either way you look at it, there's really no point in comparing yourself. Either you're going to get much more enjoyment out of it and therefore progress further and carry on with it for longer, or you're going to develop the true skills you need rather than just numbers on a piece of paper. Number 3, and probably the most practical and easily implementable in your life from tomorrow is try everything. Try studying for hours, try taking breaks every half an hour, try doing some visual learning, watching videos, try doing some auditory learning and listening to podcasts or the just audio track of your lectures. Experiment with different things, and that's the best way that you can find of how your brain works and how that you learn. Now, of course, you might think that some of this is a waste of time. If I'm trying to learn visually and I'm really not a visual learner, then what have I just wasted all my time trying to visually learn? And sometimes, yes, maybe in that time some of the information didn't go in, but it's much more vital to understand that that's not how I learn, this is how I learn. And save all the hours and hours that you would have tried forcing yourself to learn in a certain way because that's what other people have said works for them. And this is where it becomes individual, right? I understand that I learn very visually, so I watch the lectures, I look at videos on YouTube, and when I can be bothered, I make notes that look nice because I'm going to remember, okay, that was there on the page when I'm in the exam, and that was in that colour and in that font or whatever, and that really does help me. But for a lot of you, that's probably completely useless. So try all of the different tactics you can come across. I'll be sharing lots and lots of these different tactics and learning styles in the future, but there's endless resources out there about these different things. Of course, you need to be careful doing this. Nobody learns best if they're sat on the couch watching Netflix at the same time as trying to do a problem sheet. However much you might like to think I'm being productive, you're really not. Don't try to trick yourself, because really, if you think about it, you do know when you're tricking yourself. And of course, this only applies if that's something you want. If you would rather look back on your years at university and say, I've enjoyed myself, I got through X number of TV shows, and that's fine. Like, I have nothing against that. I've watched way too much TV shows for what I wanted out of university, but I'm not going to beat myself up about it. Understand what you're trying to get out of this studying period of your life, and then always come back to the bigger picture of, does it really matter that somebody else has got better test results at this period of time? Can I, in the future, surpass them? And of course you can. Just always remind yourself to take a step back and think, does what I'm doing matter? And how can I change and implement other ideas into making it matter more and making it better?